Good morning, I'm Julie Meyer and welcome back to EntrepreneurCountry TV. I am the CEO of EntrepreneurCountry and I'm also the CEO of VIVA Investment Partners based here in Zurich, Switzerland, and the host of Follow the Entrepreneur Investor Summit. We talk about all of our platforms and properties on EntrepreneurCountry TV every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central. Thank you very much, you bet.
Quicker, yeah. All right, fantastic. Can you all hear me? Yes, fantastic. What is the greatest value of conferences like this? Anybody? What's the greatest value you get out of conferences like this? Networking, fantastic. Thank you very much. What's the challenge of networking here? Julie, thankfully, she already did quite a couple of the challenges of networking, right? She brought the right people, so you find who to talk to. She already narrowed down, so we are somehow in a similar connected business, so it makes probably more sense to talk to one of you than just to talk to anybody on the street. So 2 important things already. After that one, it gets so challenging, right? How many business cards did you collect over those 2 days? Just give me numbers. Who's where? Roughly, how many business cards? Anybody? 12, okay, more. Who's more? 25. Who's got more? More, 25 is the top? Okay, 30, all right. I think that's a lot of business cards. I think I have more, by the way. The challenge, of course, becomes afterwards, right? You have a lot of business cards, and then you come to the follow-up, the prioritization. If you do all those follow-ups, you're probably weeks and weeks stuck into doing follow-ups. So, but that's natural. You do the follow-up, you do a prioritization, you come to the validation. Does it make sense to network? You validate what's really the value proposition of getting together. And then you come back, yes, makes sense. With some of those, you might go into a commercial discussion. Yes, your market and your market together, we are a stronger market. Your brand and my idea and your money together, again, makes more sense. At the end of the day, you execute, and hopefully all your commercial also makes sense, or it gives you some other kind of satisfaction. We do that one because we believe 1 + 1 = 3. Individually, we are strong, but together we are stronger. Okay, as an individual level, we are strongly believing in the concept of collaboration. Otherwise, I believe nobody of you would be here, because as we said, this is the main concept of those collaboration. I strongly believe, given the complexity what we say and we see today in the technology sector, so many new, Malcolm just explained a couple of those things, technology challenges from one industry, we'll see the same in the industry segment. We see a lot of startup funding in there, so the complexity increases. How do you find the right startups? How do you validate them? How do you prioritize? How do you set up the right collaboration model? How do you execute? How do you scale? How do you benefit? I am strongly believing in the age of collaboration. That's what I'm doing. I run you through a couple of those slides, but they really be quick. Briefly, who am I? I'm Nicolai. I'm actually a young entrepreneur. I just started in 2015. Before that one was one of the guys doing the management charts, so fantastic presentations, Excel, PowerPoints, calculating all of the Goliaths as rich. They stayed rich, but not because of what I did, I believe, but because of who they are. Started Matchmaker Ventures, and I'll tell a little bit more in a minute what we do in 2015. Then I opened up a restaurant. I exited that one in 2016. Then I opened up I started a tech company, which I'm still CEO of, Opt Inc. It's a part of consent management, but main function is Matchmaker Ventures, and this is the startup which we're working with, which you see in the bottom line there. 4 key topics, and I said I'll show you for each of those a few numbers just to really run you through. So now that you're awake and full of energy, you'll be very easy to understand and grasp what I'm telling you. Age of collaboration, just a quick, why is it now? Here is it really, and is it really now? I'll answer yes to all of them. State of the telecom industry, I'm just back on a few more of those points as Malcolm already raised. Really, is there collaboration? Telecoms, we predominantly, or not predominantly, but majority, we still do telecoms. We do financial services and media as well, but telecom certainly is one of our strong sectors. And then at the end, just to demystify the myth, what are we actually doing in order to create more collaboration realities in there? Age of collaboration, why? On the one hand, I already said that one, the world is getting much faster, and I actually like this quote, the world has never been as slow as today. So tomorrow the world will be faster as the day after. So every day we will increase in speed. 2007 we got this wonderful device, the iPhone, and today, again as Malcolm said, we can't live without those devices. The speed of disruption, insane. Here what you see is when did today's Fortune 500 companies actually entered the index of the Fortune 500, and that's what you can see is pretty steady for many, many decades, and then we see the steep increase, of course, with technology. So a lot of cycles coming through, a lot of new technology companies coming in there. The second hand, time to innovation corporation, and we heard that they need to innovate. And anybody who has worked in a corporation, I believe, knows how challenging it is. The one hand, it's challenging for a reason, because you just have a lot of pile of revenues to defend. On the other hand, you are just a big bureaucratic dinosaurs, and it really gets hard to get this moving. This one sums up to 100%, assuming that 100% of the products would actually be launched, which obviously is not true. So in reality, you would have to have another number. But unfortunately, CB Insights here didn't ask that question. They said, hey, how long do you take? But on average, this is already more than 12 months. So it takes a lot of time for corporates to actually get something going. We asked then, this is one of our studies, we asked both around 120 startups and 120 corporates, how important is collaboration for you in for your business? And we see the corporates on the left and the startups on the right. Yes, it's the right side, okay. And about 80% of both say it's very, or it's highly, or extremely important for my business, for my future, to actually collaborate. We then asked those guys, the same guys, and have you all already collaborated? And we can also see, hey, it's actually not just words. Most of those guys already collaborated. So they're actively out there and trying to get things work. The next obvious question is after, hey, is it important? Have you done it? Is, has it succeeded? You see here from the numbers, did it succeed within a year? Or did it not exceed within a year, within 2 years, or never? You can see most of them actually doesn't really work. It doesn't really create the benefit which we have. And again, I believe those numbers are even more nicely put than in reality, which they are. This brings us then to the point of the next question. Hey, now that you've done it, you see it's important, you've done it, it didn't work out, will you do it again? And I still want to find those two people on the corporate side who said, no, I don't want to do it again, because otherwise I would have had the perfect 100 sweep numbers, but unfortunately I don't. But I think it's still pretty telling. On both sides, almost 100% of both say, yes, I tried it, it's important, it might not have perfectly worked, didn't create the benefits anticipated, but still, I will do it again. I will keep on collaborating. We also saw that one, and this is our, and it's not complete, and you can challenge us from multiple sides. I am a consultant still in my heart. I did that most of my career, so I need to have a matrix on here. It created actually this entire part startup corporates over the past year, and I believe even almost a new service industry. And you can see here on the one axis, what are you predominantly business or working on, the impact for startups which you create, and the impact for corporations. And when you match a lot of, and there's many, many more players out there who actually working on those fields, usually most of them are doing it rather from the corporate side or rather from the startup side in order to match, in order to create more impact out of collaboration. Also not a surprise, as a consultant and smart as I am, I put us in the top right, which obviously the best part to be in. And I explain later, and then you can challenge me if we really are on the top right. So much to the importance of collaboration. Quickly, my few thoughts on the telecom industry, which certainly is a dinosaur industry. I say too much money. I believe, yes, there is too much money. That's the first point. And I'll always have interesting discussion with Malcolm on this one and about the telecom industry. Few points. Mobile industry, this is the revenue outlook. Industry you want to be in. There's a lot of money in there, but it doesn't really look very appealing. There's not a lot of growth happening. This is actually from the Telecom Association, so the GSMA. So it's not any kind of industry reports. It's actually one association which is paid by the mobile operators. So you could assume that their forecasts are rather on the positive side. But still, you see a pretty flat-ish line. If you take inflation, actually, the picture doesn't get much better. So it's an industry where there certainly is a lot of money, but it's not really that fast growing. And this one goes projections until 2025. Does it make sense? But overall, the line has been the last year and is still flat. One of the issues is certainly when we talk about phones, contracts, we're really interested, hey, do I take Verizon, do I take AT&T, do I take T-Mobile, or whatever market you're in? You're actually more interested into, hey, what is the phone do I get with it? You're interested, you put your time into choosing your phone, and this is what comes into this one. Here it means who's important to you, essentially, and telecoms are pure utilities. You change your telecom provider as you do anything else. The most important, which you're interested in usually is, can I keep my numbers? Because that's what you want. That's part of your digital identity by now. Because changing your number, that's a big hassle. So you just want to make sure that you migrate, but there's millions and millions of people in Europe already who migrated. The operators are going from A to B because of better deals. So telecoms certainly have an issue in here. You see it also, this number is the market saturation. So how many SIM cards are there over population? And you can see that almost all of them are reaching the 100 already, far beyond the 100. There's more SIM cards out there than there is population. Now you take out, of course, the young kids, you take out some of the elderly. So then actually these numbers would get higher of the addressable market. Then, of course, you need to calculate in all the devices because more devices also have a SIM card. So it equals out, but bottom line is there is a hell lot of connections, and everybody of us has one phone. Many of us have two phones. Some might even have 3 phones. No? So there's a lot. The natural growth is coming to an end, and that's what also was said before. The telecom industry is looking for new growth opportunities. This is reflected into the financial numbers. This is just from a few of the numbers. We can still identify the growth markets easily in here, with China on the top, where you still see the growth. T-Mobile indeed has had a good year. In particular, I think this is under 17. So there are good numbers. The picture though gets much more interesting on the next slide, and I'll show you that one. Up if I can. Yes. So this is just 2 numbers. This is indexed the development of market capitalization of the top 30 players per industry. Be aware of the breaks in here. So it is not just going linear. Actually, there's a couple of breaks in the index because the internet industry was growing too fast in market cap. And you see the beautiful telecom industry, on a flat line of market capitalization. So if you were an investor in the top 30 stocks of the telecom markets, congratulations to making 0 profit. So the industry certainly has an issue. That's I think the one part, and a little bit going to the Malcolm, where they are good, and they certainly are important animals, because there is a lot of Capex which they need. So this is the Capex not including spectrum. So what you can see is there's a lot of investment into infrastructure. If you take a Deutsche Telekom on the 74 billion revenues which they make around 19 million of Capex investments. I think that includes spectrum, so around about 15 million of pure infrastructure investments which they do, which is on the one hand, of course, a burden. On the other hand, for the telecom players, it's a beautiful element because essentially you have a natural oligopoly, because just bring up that amount of Capex in order to get the license, in order to build out the network. So you are pretty much in a walled garden, and I believe also that's one of the reasons why many of them have not been in particularly agile or innovative. Coming to, and as I said, I keep on running through because I know that we're running late in the agenda, so I'll try to make up, and I lost some time with my game. Friends or foes, David and Goliath realities. Many telcos have identified, and all of them have somehow an innovation, a smart home, an IoT strategy, trying to be out there and, hey, now we're changing the world and now becoming the industry leaders. A lot of money usually has been burnt, not that much success stories which are out there at the moment. Again, just a few things here. This is, again, from a study which we did, and we interviewed here around 90% of the global telecom revenues, so we had them all in our survey. It's 2016, but the picture doesn't really, it's the end of 2016, picture doesn't really change a lot. They said we have 9% today of revenues from really new services, new products. And then we ask, okay, how much do you want to have by 2020? And they said 22%. So very aggressive growth targets. So telecoms do acknowledge, the flat line, the story to shareholders. It's very hard to say, and saying to a shareholder, yes, I make solid 0% growth this year. How do you feel about that one, investor? So it's not really the strongest story, so that's why, of course, they are all out there and proclaiming, we do that one. The reality is, I think there's 3 operators who really give their numbers on IoT revenues, which is, I think, Vodafone and 2 other players. They make less than 2% on average of the revenues from IoT or from M2M. So it's still marginal what they really make on new business. It's still a business which is predominantly selling the SIM card and getting a monthly revenue for that one. But at least there's more and more which are trying. How they are trying, you see a couple of logos, the big ones, very different initiatives which are out there in order to try to get into innovation and also more to the startup world. Internal, of course, acquisition, joint ventures, strategic partnerships coming more and more up. Startup collaboration, really something which is incredibly coming up. I just want to name 2 companies in here which I believe are the best practices examples. The one is KPN, fantastic company really in doing the entire collaboration approach with startups. In the 3 years since they have initiated the strategic plan, they've made more than 170 startup work together with startups from a POC towards real life. And the other one, Elisa in Finland, I think yesterday was something mentioned about Finland, or one of the private discussions, could also be. And Elisa makes around 10% in fact of the revenues through really digital products, and a lot of that really coming from the startup collaboration. And some very crazy one really set up new companies in order to venture into new businesses. We also see the investment. Of course, there was a lot of investment discussion in here. You also see that more and more telcos realize, actually, hey, we have a lot of money sitting here around, and in theory, we have a lot of assets to play on, so we should also invest into startups. So we see a lot of investments out there. SoftBank is probably the known, but it's not a classical telco, not coming from the telco world, but we also see the Deutsche Telekoms, the Orange Digital Ventures, who really are actively out there and trying to do something with their money, which on the one hand is good. On the other hand, it also gets to the easy point of the collaboration, because they just want to acquire, be in that one, which is not as painful as saying, hey, I actually have this, you have this, let's make jointly that one, which is significantly harder than just giving money and taking an equity stake. Does it pay off, innovation? I think that's an interesting chart, but I think I need to explain. We ask in the same survey, we ask, is at your company innovation a top 5 or not a top 5 priority? So it's not among the top or top 3 priorities. And then we correlated that one actually with the actual business impact which it generated. And those companies who are really out there and trying to do many of those things, a lot of them really focused on here, a lot of them focused on here. It actually does pay off. Oh, sorry, no, confused with this. So it does pay off. So those guys who are saying, yes, I really live innovation, on average, they had a significantly better return. It cost a lot more money. That's the point, you know. So you need to have very trustworthy and believing shareholders, because essentially this transformation costs a lot of money. So they all took a big dip on their free cash flow. But in the long term, I would rather be on this blue side than I would be on this gray side. Unfortunately, the numbers the companies which are in here, that's very hardly few. Last one, back to the startup on that side. We ask in the same study also the startups and the corporates, would you be willing to collaborate? We split the telco into 5 areas. There's a network, you know, you have the base stations, which Malcolm meant, and the cable, the ducts in the ground. You have some kind of IT infrastructure sitting on top of it to make sure that it works. You have some kind of products which you need. There's the core products, voice products, data products. You have some kind of new stuff which you have out there, new products. And then also you need to interact with the customer. So we made it simplified, the telecom, into those 5 domains. And it's interesting, which I really thought was one of the most interesting finding out of the study was, you know, corporates willing to collaborate, of course, in this adjacent, it doesn't hurt me. It's a new thing. Well, you know, it's not really in my core line. Yeah, you can do it somewhere out there. Customer experience is a hard thing. You know, corporates, in particular telcos, you all know probably, and have bought or went to a store and got a telecom a subscription. I think it's a terrible experience. Our company, we changed operators. It was insane, and I could probably tell hours of story about how terrible the customer service is at operators in Austria. So it was really an experience. So of course they wanted to in that one. But then again, when you look here, which was one of the most interesting points for me, was that the corporate said, no, I don't want to collaborate, but the startup said, okay, then I'm just going to disrupt you. So I think there's a lot of good things happening, and we had probably 5 years back or 7 years back, if we had the same thing about messaging, they would have said, no, I'm not going to collaborate in messaging. And a few years later, messaging revenues are dead because everybody's using WhatsApp. What's our role in that one? And I'll be quick on that one. So how do we change those realities? We believe there's a lot of reason to collaborate. We believe those guys will survive. There is a reason why the telecoms are in there, and it's a very important industry. But this one is not yet fully working, so a lot of more work needs to be done. We started in 2015, always working between those 2 sides, corporation and startups. Startups for us, we are focusing on Series A or late seed companies with a product, with a traction, who need to scale globally. we want to make, and that's the vision which we have, we want to make the collaboration between startups simple and successful. We are not taking equity and we're not investing cash. We are investing our time, our know-how, our network in order to actually scale startups. So what we do is we take them on our portfolio and we help them to connect and to set up this entire journey of collaboration with leading corporates in order to increase, at the end of the day, the revenues of the startups, and we get a cut of the revenues, so we're really impact incentivized. As we moved, and we had the chicken and egg problem which Julie mentioned yesterday, how we broke it then, once we were in 2016 and 17, more and more corporates said, it's pretty cool what you guys do, can you do this for me? So we also developed another model which was then on the corporate, and we do matchmaking as a service, and therefore really address this issue from two sides. We have 9 portfolio companies, we're a growing team, fully cash flow finance, so I think it is working. Now it gets a little bit bigger. The entire journey we do from understanding, screening the right one, selecting, matching, onboarding, scaling, not much different from what I outlined before as a collaboration journey. To the two sides, not going to go into that one, I said from startup side, from corporate side, always on business collaboration, that's what we do. So we don't find the best investment opportunity, which also means we're usually focusing on 12 to 24 months max, where we need to see an impact out of this collaboration, otherwise the risk which we take is too big. We have representation, pretty global by now. We are still Europe-centric, but we are scaling up more and more. Things are really working and coming together, so it's really a fun and a joy to work more and more internationally. And lastly, what's next? As said, okay, what's next? It is working. We believe we're really onto something. So far, it's a very mandate intensive. Now that we have more and more figured it out, we're at a borderline or crossing point for ourselves to decide, hey, do we want to actually look for something to accelerate this one? So we're actively thinking in terms of our strategic decision if we want to take this more active. There's a lot of things which you can do on the platform where technology could really help us. So we're exploring that one. That would mean we're breaking out of the cash flow and we would look for some investments, or we grow as we go, which is also a fine approach. So that's where we are. I believe in this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Wow, very good.